Okay, we are ready to go here. So let me go ahead and get started with the pants. That's probably the fastest and easiest part of the drawing, so I'll start there. Although I do oftentimes encourage people to do the part they're scared of first. Like usually people are scared of the face. So I always say you should just go for it. Get the face out of the way, because if you mess it up, you won't have invested too much in this drawing yet. Okay, so there's the waistband. That took 2 seconds. I'm gonna just put a second coat right there to the left of the tab extension. A little later, I'll put maybe a little creasy shadow in the middle there. Okay, now let me get the pants. I'm gonna go right down here and right down here. And I'm gonna just kind of work in the direction of the pants. You could go this way for places that have a crease. I'm gonna just sweep it right down. If you're doing a really light colored garment, I will very often leave a lot of the paper showing. Like if you're doing a white garment, for white garments, you would just take a color like I'm using right now and just hit the shadows and leave the rest of it pretty bright. Okay, so here I go down here. This part of the pants I'm gonna leave pretty light, go really quickly over that, and then darken up this little area inside here with a second coat, and get this little crease under here, and fill in everything else with just a quick coat. Is it streaking? Yes. Do I care? No. Markers are really hard to keep from streaking, so we just kind of lean into it and trust that once we put a little bit of colored pencil over the top, it's really not going to be that big a deal. Okay, one more coat right there. All right, so now let me take my skinny side and I'm going to get a couple creases, a little darkened up here. She's got a little bit of darkness right there where her hand is in the pocket. This little pleat, so cute, cute pants. And what else do we want? Maybe a little bit here, a little bit there. Okay, so there's one side of the pants. Let me go ahead and do pencil and then I'll switch to the other side. You could fill the whole pants in with marker right now. That's fine. I'm gonna just do one side so that you can see it. Okay, so I'm taking my dark color and I'm just gonna pop some of these areas and I'm gonna come right up underneath where I know I need a shadow. And I'm just gonna hit these shadow areas. There is no reason for me to go back over this entire thing that I just colored. Okay, if you feel like you need to go back over it again, you might have used the wrong color marker. You might have needed a darker marker. Oh, you know what? I missed the shadow on the side of the pants here on this outer edge. So let me capture that, especially because that comes right to that little crease line that I kind of want to see if I can communicate. Okay, and here we go with the side of my pencil. Let me just capture a little bit of shading down the side here. I'm going to get just a little bit up in here, and it's really dark right down in here underneath this little swoopy area. So let me just press a little harder and capture some of that, just like that. Okay. I can get this part underneath here too, and then it's up to you guys how much patience you have to get more of these details on the fold of the leg. The more I look at it, the more I see that there's a lot of folds of fabric that would be nice to capture, but I'm not gonna make myself crazy over it. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna pause there and work on some other parts of these pants. Let me come back up to the waistband and I'm gonna go ahead and darken up underneath that belt loop. Keep your pencils really sharp. And up against the tab extension, darken that area up. And that might do the trick, guys. So let me get the other side of the pants and see if I need much more shading. But right there already, I've got the start of a pair of pants that are long and loose and have some crease details. Okay, so let me get the other side. Hang on. I say I'm done, but then I'm never done. Okay. All right, here we go back with my marker. Let me fill in this other side. And right down this other leg. Just like that. All right. My gosh, my students are using the buttonhole machine outside of my classroom, which is great. I'm glad they're doing that and they're feeling confident to use it. But it's like the most noisy machine in this entire workroom is the buttonhole machine, and I'm just listening to it out there. But it sounds like it's functioning well, and they seem to be doing okay, so that's good. Okay, so there's that big nice crease. There's more happening down here. And let me get this entire inside of her upper thigh, like that. And then we've got some creases. So I'll capture a little bit here, tiny bit there, definitely something here, and that little pleat. Okay, can I put my pencil on this now? I think I might be able to. There is a little bit of suggestion of the fly right there, so I can put a little something in there. Okay, let me take my pencil and add a little bit more detail to it, and then I think we're done. And do you want to know what, you guys? I had pulled out from my recipe, I had pulled out this color, and do you want to know what? I don't think I even used it. I think I went straight for the dark one. Yeah, I don't think I even used it. I think I just went with this. So there you go, even more simple. I love it. Keep it simple, right? You need a color that's going to stand up against the marker. Otherwise, you're going to just kind of waste a lot of time. If you have the time and you want to color over everything with pencil on top of your markers, you know, I'm not going to stop you, but it does take more time. Okay, make sure I've got enough little creases in here. And get that little crease. Let me see what I'm looking at here. I see a little bit of a pulling from the pocket side there. And here is the belt loop. And that might be it, guys. I'm going to put an outline on this lightly with pencil because I just kind of like the look of it. What you'll notice is with children's, I will kind of outline everything, but with women's, you're going to see me very frequently let my outline kind of stop and start. I might not outline the entire thing. I might just try to capture some key spots and let the rest sort of let people, you know, the viewer kind of fill in with their imagination. I don't feel the need to really outline everything as aggressively as I do with like the children's. I feel like the children's, it gives it kind of a fun, cartoony effect, which is not necessarily what I'm going for when I'm doing adults. Okay, all right, I'm not mad at that. I'm gonna let it be. I'm probably gonna revisit it once I get a little bit more done here and see if it needs something else. Okay, but that didn't take too long. I actually think that was you know, didn't take any longer than doing it in pencil and was probably faster. So I'm going to set aside my recipe for the pants, and now I'm going to get my recipe for the shirt, which was this blue and this blue, and I think I said I was going to possibly put some black. Okay, so that's where we're at. So let me go ahead and scoot the camera up so you guys can see. I'm going to zoom in to just her shirt area. I've got this one next to me, and I've got my drawing. If I want to reference my drawing, I've got my drawing next to me too, so I can see where I put those creases and those shadows. So I'm going to start filling things in. The collar is going to get the fastest little sweep. Even that I feel like is maybe a little too dark, and that's okay because I can add some white on top of it if I really need to. I'm going to do her shirt underneath here. And I'm going to get this area here. Now, the marker does take a second to dry, and what I'm feeling is that perhaps that collar is going to bleed over into the part that I just colored. If it does, I'll get colored pencil out and I'll see if I can clean it up. But if I waited a second longer, it might have been smart. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to take my skinny tip and just clean it up a little bit. And I'm going to start coming in and getting some more of those little creases. This is the stage, I think, with markers. If you're new with using markers, and especially if you're new with using markers and new with drawing, where you do that thing I just did, filling it in, and you're just like, oh my gosh, it doesn't look good. You've got to hang in there, guys, because it's like it goes through this ugly phase before it gets better. And I feel that way actually of many, many creative projects, is that they're going to go through sort of a ugly duckling phase before they come through the other side. So just, you know, don't give up. Just know that sometimes it takes a second to get to where you need to go. Okay, I'm going to fill in the arm part here. And I think I'm going to come right down her arm like this. Fill it in, fill it in, fill it in. And I can't really see what's going on, but what I know is that it's got a dark value. It's quite shadowy in there. So I'm gonna just darken it with extra coats of marker, and then I will put some colored pencil detail to make it look like it's gathered up. Okay, I'm gonna do the colored pencil on this now, and then I'll do the other side. You could definitely just fill in the other side, you know, while you've got the pen out. It's up to you. Get that. But I keep looking at this little section of the shirt that I wanted to try to capture, and I don't know that I did, but anyway. Get this guy. And so what I'm doing basically is you've kind of already defined the shadows with the marker. It's just not very precise with the marker. So I'm going to take my colored pencil and I'm just hitting those shadow areas again and sort of darkening them up, and you can get these little nooks and crannies. Now I can definitely tell I'm going to need to get my black pencil at the end and just pop some harder shadows in here, because right now this bluish grayish is the best one I had, but this is what I'm talking about with tone on tone, where if you're going really close to the pen color, it just doesn't really pop. It's just kind of not even worth the effort, versus finding a darker color. But I don't know. I think that's fine. I'll leave that for now. Let me switch over to the other side and fill in that side of the shirt. We've got a really dark part of the collar there. We've got some nice streaky pull dragline creases here. What I'm doing now is sometimes people have found it is a little bit easier to think about if you draw the creases first. I don't typically do it this way, but just so you guys can see, one way to do it is if you try to get the creases in first and then sweep over it, you might feel like it's a little bit less intimidating. I don't know. I generally don't do it that way, but that's one way to do it. And that has come up in the past when I've been working with students on drawing faces, when they're nervous about putting the shadows on the faces. We've tried it both ways, where you draw the shadows and then put the layer of marker over it, or just washing it with marker first and then adding in the shadows. I've tried it both ways. I feel like different classes feel differently about it. It was about a 50-50 split last time I taught this class. I actually do ask them and see how many people like which one. Okay, so there we go. And I'm going to just kind of add a little something to sort of blend in that area. Okay, let me get my blue-gray pencil that, again, I'm just not quite loving, but I'm going to use it anyway, and at least use it to kind of get some emphasis in some spots. I think it is showing up okay on the camera, so that's good. It's a little bit bland here in person. Okay, and then for this sleeve, I can see that it's gathered up, but I can't see too much, at least not in my photo. So I'm just going to do some slightly generic kind of ruching up of this. Okay, and then that'll be skin tone, that little part of her arm. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. Because that blue wasn't really giving me a whole lot of pop, I'm going to take a super sharp black, and I'm just going to hit the very key areas that I think needed a little extra. Okay, do you have to do this? No. Could you find like a better color? Probably, but areas like right here, like this is dark and these are deep little pockets of shadow. So I feel like it kind of needed a little bit of extra darkening. And areas like underneath the collar, there's just these handful of little places where, you know, we kind of want to pop the shadows. Underneath collars are a big one. Just getting right up under there sort of helps it all come to life. And then this side of her sleeve, it's, I mean, I feel like I don't see much in there. So I'm just going to shade over it with some extra darkness and capture a couple of these little wrinklies, this way. And then I'm going to pop a little outline in place. Little outline here, give it a little wiggle, catch that edge of her neckline, and a little of this, a little wiggle here, and there we go. Okay, so I think, let me do her buttons. So the buttons, if you guys look closely at buttons, what you will see is they typically have a little shadow or right around underneath them, and sometimes I'll just do that. If you just put that little C shape, sometimes that's all you need to communicate button, because you just capture the shadow. But if you want to drop a little highlight, either with a white or with a gel pen on top, that's really nice too. And if a gel pen is too bright, you can do it in gel pen, and then you can color the gel pen later on with whatever color you need. Okay, so that I think is fine for the shirt. I mean, I'm going to look at it later, and I'm going to possibly come in with a few more details, but I think we're okay for now. Okay, let's talk about the skin. So here's my recipe. I've got my skin color. I've got my shading color. I've got a little pink, and she's going to need some dark pops for her eyes. Let's see if I can get my camera a little better aligned. And I am going to take my gummy eraser, and I'm going to blot up some of my pencil. Okay. Because I don't think I need it to be quite that dark. I feel like her eyes are a little too far apart. Let's see if I can. And I think what I'm going to try to do is have her looking a little bit more towards her phone as best I can. And that shadow is going to go there. You know what? And I think her nose is not quite long enough. Let me just do a little adjustment on her face. Did that a little bit quickly, and I think I'm not quite following my proportions as nicely as I'd want to. Brow looks fine. Nose is halfway down. I think that's what was going on, is I had my nose just a little too high, which put her mouth just a little too high. And that's a little better, I think. Okay, here she is, so for comparison. Okay, so now I've got my face in place. Lighten it up, and let's fill it in. So this is the part where I was talking about. Some students find it more helpful to, I'm testing my recipe to see if I even can get a second coat with this marker. Yeah, I can. Some people find it more kind of intuitive to do the shadows first on a face. I will do this with a darker skin tone. If I'm doing a really dark skin tone where you're really going to be leaning on highlights, sometimes I will put in some shadows first. And then they'll go over the whole thing. Okay, you guys have seen me doing faces before where I color the whole thing in first, and then I go with the second coat while the usually while it's still a little bit wet, like right here, and I'll see if I can get a little bit of extra detail while it's still wet so that it doesn't make as many streaks in there. So whatever you prefer. If you try both ways and you have a strong preference, I'd be interested to know. Send me a message. Let me know what you like better, whether you prefer to do the shadows first or whether you prefer to just go over the whole thing and then add the shadows later. So here we go. I'm going to go over the whole thing. This is normally how I would approach the face to begin with. But you can see how by doing those shadows first, it kind of sets me up a little bit by giving me that extra pop right around the areas I know I'm going to need it. I still want more though. Now that I've got color everywhere, I can kind of see, okay, I need it under the cheek here, brow, definitely this side of the forehead, nook of the eye right here, ears, tip of the nose, the upper lip. I always darken. I darken under the lower lip. You can see she's got a tiny little shadow right there. I darken under the chin quite a bit. We really like to get a nice shadow there. Okay, she's coming together. Let's get her hand. My advice is always, before you put away that skin tone, look around your drawing and make sure you're not missing anything important, because it's the worst when you do the face and you finish a face and you just feel like you want to take like a celebratory lap around the house or wherever, classroom, wherever you are, and then you misplace whatever marker that was. And if you can't find that marker again, it's just sort of annoying. Okay, so there we go. Second coat right here. And we'll do this little arm over here. Even though it's mostly in shadow, I'll darken it up in a minute. Okay, that's it. If you guys are showing some shoes on your feet, you can definitely do, you know, if you need to show a little skin color on the feet, it's up to you what you're doing with the shoes. All right, here's my shadow color. So let me just do the these are easy parts. Let's warm ourselves up by just getting some shadow on her arm right here and on the side of her hand. And we can even get those little knuckles. If you really want to take a second, just get those little knuckles where the light is just creating a little dimple. And then I'll pop it with a little outline. And as always, when I'm doing line work, I'm playing with my line quality, a little heavier, a little lighter. I am really reluctant to put fingernails on my female illustrations. I think it can be very distracting, but it's up to you guys. I mean, we can see that she's got some fingernails there, so if you wanted to try to darken up around and leave light for the fingernails, that's fine with me. Okay, let's come up and get her face. Oh gosh, I'm already at 22 minutes. What I will do is, I think, let me do a second video or another video, and I'll finish up face and hair because that'll take me just another couple minutes.